Edward Roman III by William Shakespeare. Act I Scene I London. A room of state in the palace. Robert of Artois, banished though thou be from France thy native country, yet with us thou shalt retain as great a signiory, for we create thee Earl of Richmond here. And now go forwards with our pedigree, who next succeeded Philip le Beau. 3 sons of his, which all successfully did sit upon their father's regal throne, yet died and left no issue of their loins. She was, my lord, and only Isabel was all the daughters that this Philip had, whom afterward your father took to wife, and from the fragrant garden of her womb, your gracious self, the flower of Europe's hope, derived is inherited to France. But note the rancor of rebellious minds. When thus the lineage of le Beau was out, the French obscured your mother's privilege, and though she were the next of blood, proclaimed John, of the house of Valois, now their king. The reason was, they say, the realm of France, replete with princes of great parentage, ought not admit a governor to rule, except he be descended of the male. And that's the special ground of their contempt wherewith they study to exclude your grace. But they shall find that forged ground of theirs to be but dusty heaps of brittle sand. Perhaps it will be thought a heinous thing that I, a Frenchman, should discover this. But heaven I call to record of my vows. It is not hate nor any private wrong, but love unto my country and the right, provokes my tongue thus lavish in repot. You are the lineal watchman of our peace, and John of Valois indirectly climbs. What then should subjects but embrace their king? And wherein may our duty more be seen, than striving to rebate a tyrant's pride and place the true shepherd of our commonwealth? This counsel, Artois, like to fruitful showers, hath added growth unto my dignity. And by the fiery vigor of thy words, hot courage is engendered in my breast, which heretofore was racked in ignorance, but now doth mount with golden wings of fame, and will approve fair Isabel's descent, able to yoke their stubborn necks with steel that spurn against my sovereignty in France. Sound a horn, a messenger, laud Audley, know from whence. Exit Audley, and returns. The Duke of Lorraine, having crossed the seas, entreats he may have conference with your highness. The most renowned prince, King John of France, doth greet thee, Edward, and by me commands that, for so much as by his liberal gift the Guyenne dukedom is entailed to thee, thou do him lowly homage for the same. And for that purpose, here I summon thee repair to France within these 40 days, that there, according as the custom is, thou mayst be sworn true liegeman to our king, or else thy title in that province dies, and he himself will repossess the place. See how occasion laughs me in the face? No sooner minded to prepare for France, but straight I am invited, nay, with threats upon a penalty, enjoined to come twere, but a childish pot to say him nay. Lorraine, return this answer to thy lord. I mean to visit him as he requests, but how? Not servilely disposed to bend, but like a conqueror to make him bow. His lame, unpolished shifts are come to light, and truth hath pulled the vizard from his face that set a gloss upon his arrogance. Dare he command a fealty in me? Tell him the crown that he usurps is mine, and where he sets his foot, he ought to kneel. 'Tis not a petty dukedom that I claim, but all the whole dominions of the realm, which if with grudging he refuse to yield, I'll take away those borrowed plumes of his and send him naked to the wilderness. Then, Edward, here, in spite of all thy lauds, I do pronounce defiance to thy face. Defiance, Frenchman? We rebound it back, even to the bottom of thy master's throat. And be it spoke with reverence of the king my gracious father, and these other lauds. I hold thy message but as scurrilous, and him that sent thee, like the lazy drone crept up by stealth unto the eagle's nest, from whence we'll shake him with so rough a storm, as others shall be warned by his harm. Bid him leave of the lion's case he wears, lest, meeting with the lion in the field, he chance to tear him piecemeal for his pride. The soundest counsel I can give his grace is to surrender ere he be constrained. A voluntary mischief hath less scorn than when reproach with violence is borne. Degenerate traitor, viper to the place where thou was fostered in thine infancy, drawing his sword. Bear'st thou a part in this conspiracy? Lorraine, behold the sharpness of this steel, drawing his. Fervent desire that sits against my heart is far more thorny pricking than this blade, that with the nightingale I shall be scarred as oft as I dispose myself to rest, until my colours be displayed in France. This is thy final answer, so be gone. It is not that, nor any English brave, afflicts me so, as doth his poisoned view, that is most false should most of all be true. Exeunt Lorraine and train. Now, lauds, our fleeting bark is under sail, our gage is thrown, and war is soon begun, but not so quickly brought unto an end. But wherefore comes Sir William Mountague? How stands the league between the Scot and us? Cracked and dissevered, my renowned lord. The treacherous king no sooner was informed of your withdrawing of our army back, but straight, forgetting of his former oath, he made invasion on the bordering towns. Berwick is won, Newcastle spoiled and lost. And now the tyrant hath begirt with siege the castle of Roxburgh, where enclosed the Countess Salisbury is like to perish. That is thy daughter, Warwick, is it not? Whose husband hath in Britain served so long, about the planting of Lord Mountford there? Ignoble David, haste thou none to grieve, but silly ladies, with thy threatening arms? But I will make you shrink your snaily horns. First, therefore, Audley, this shall be thy charge. Go levy footmen for our wars in France, and Ned, take muster of our men-at-arms, in every shire elect a several band. Let them be soldiers of a lusty spirit, such as dread nothing but dishonour's blot. Be wary, therefore, since we do commence a famous war, and with so mighty a nation. Derby, be thou ambassador for us unto our father-in-law, the Earl of Hainault, make him acquainted with our enterprise, and likewise will him, with our own allies that are in Flanders, to solicit to the Emperor of Almain in our name. Myself, whilst you are jointly thus employed, will, with these forces that I have at hand, march and once more repulse the traitorous Scot. But, sirs, be resolute. We shall have wars on every side, and Ned, thou must begin now to forget thy study and thy books, and ure thy shoulders to an armor's weight. As cheerful sounding to my youthful spleen, this tumult is of wars increasing broils, as at the coronation of a king the joyful clamours of the people are when, Ave, Caesar? They pronounce aloud. Within this school of honour I shall learn, either to sacrifice my foes to death, or in a rightful quarrel spend my breath. Then cheerfully forward, each a several way. In great affairs 'tis not to use delay. Exeunt, scene into Roxburgh. Before the castle. Alas, how much in vain my poor eyes gaze for succour that my sovereign should send? Ah, cousin Mountague, I fear, thou want'st the lively spirit sharply to solicit with vehement suit the king in my behalf. Thou dost not tell him, what a grief it is to be the scornful captive of a Scot, either to be wooed with broad, untuned oaths, or focked by rough, insulting barbarism. Thou dost not tell him, if he here prevail, how much they will deride us in the north, and in their wild, uncivil, skipping jigs, brave fought their conquest and our overthrow, even in the barren, bleak, and fruitless air. I must withdraw. The everlasting foe comes to the wall. I'll closely step aside and list their babble, blunt and full of pride. Retiring behind the works, my Lord of Lorraine, to our brother of France commend us, as the man in Christendom that we most reverence and entirely love. Touching your embassage, return and say that we with England will not enter parley, nor never make fair weather or take truce, but burn their neighbour towns, and so persist with eager roads beyond their city yoke. And never shall our bonny riders rest, nor rusting canker have the time to eat their light-bound snaffles nor their nimble spurs, nor lay aside their jacks of gymold mail, nor hang their staves of grained Scottish ash in peaceful wise upon their city walls, nor from their buttoned tawny leathern belts dismiss their biting whinyards, till your king cry out enough. Spare England now for pity. Farewell, and tell him that you leave us here before this castle. Say you came from us even when we had that yielded to our hands. I take my leave, and fairly will return your acceptable greeting to my king. Exit. Now, Douglas, to our former task again, for the division of this certain spoil. Nay, soft ye, sir, first I must make my choice, and first I do bespeak her for myself. Those are her own, still liable to her, and who inherits her, hath those withal. My liege, as we were pricking on the hills to fetch in booty, marching hitherward we might descry a might host of men. The sun, reflecting on the armour, showed a field of plate, a wood of pikes advanced. Bethink your highness speedily herein. An easy march within 4 hours will bring the hindmost rank unto this place, my liege. Say, good my lord, which is he, must have the lady, and which, her jewels? I am sure, my lords, you will not hence, till you have shod the spoils. She heard the messenger and heard our talk, and now that comfort makes her scorn at us. After the French ambassador, my liege, and tell him that you dare not ride to York. Excuse it, that your bonny hoss is lame. She heard that too. Intolerable grief. Woman, farewell. Although I do not stay, exeunt Scots, 'tis not for fear, and yet you run away. O happy comfort, welcome to our house. The confident and boisterous boasting Scot, that swore before my walls, they would not back for all the armed power of this land. With faceless fear that ever turns his back, turned hence again the blasting northeast wind upon the bare report and name of arms. How fares my aunt? Why, aunt, when we are not Scots, why do you shut your gates against your friends? Well may I give a welcome, cousin, to thee, for thou comest well to chase my foes from hence. The king himself is come in person hither. Dear aunt, descend and gratulate his highness. How may I entertain his majesty to show my duty and his dignity? Exit from above. What, are the stealing foxes fled and gone before we could uncouple at their heels? They are, my liege, but with a cheerful cry, hot hounds and haughty chase them at the heels. Even she, my liege, whose beauty tyrants fear, as a May blossom with pernicious winds, hath sullied, withered, overcast, and done. My gracious king, fair is she not at all, if that herself were by to stain herself, as I have seen her when she was herself. What strange enchantment lurked in those her eyes when they excelled this excellence they have, that now their dim decline hath power to draw my subject eyes from pursing majesty to gaze on her with doting admiration? In duty lower than the ground I kneel, and from my dull knees bow my feeling hot, to witness my obedience to your highness, with many millions of a subject's thanks for this your royal presence, whose approach hath driven war and danger from my gate. Lady, stand up. I come to bring thee peace, however thereby I have purchased war. No war to you, my liege. The Scots are gone, and gallop home towards Scotland with their hate. Lest yielding here I pine in shameful love, come, we'll pursue the Scots. Otwa, away. A little while, my gracious sovereign, stay and let the power of a mighty king honor our roof. My husband in the wars, when he shall hear it, will triumph for joy. Then, dear my liege, now niggard not thy state, being at the wall, enter our homely gate. Pardon me, countess, I will come no near. I dreamed tonight of treason, and I fear no farther off than her conspiring eye, which shoots infected poison in my heart beyond repulse of wit or cure of aught. Now in the sun alone, it doth not lie with light to take light from a mortal eye. For here 2 day stars, that mine eyes would see, more than the sun, steals mine own light from me. Contemplative desire to be in contemplation that may master thee? Warwick, Otwa to Hoss and let's away. What needs a tongue to such a speaking eye that more persuades than winning oratory? Let not thy presence, like the April sun, flatter our earth and suddenly be done. More happy do not make our outward wall than thou wilt grace our inner house withal. Our house, my liege, is like a country swain, whose habit rude and manners blunt and plain presageth not, yet inly beautified with bounty's riches and fair hidden pride, for, where the golden awe doth buried lie, the ground, undecked with nature's tapestry, seems barren, sere, unfertile, fructless, dry, and where the upper turf of earth doth boast his pride, perfumes and potty-colored cost delve there, and find this issue and their pride to spring from ordure and corruption's side. But to make up my all too long compare, these ragged walls no testimony are, what is within, but like a cloak doth hide, from weather's waste, the undergarnished pride. More gracious than my terms can let thee be, entreat thyself to stay a while with me. As wise as fair, what fond fit can be heard when wisdom keeps the gate as beauty's god? Countess, albeit my business urgeth me, it shall attend while I attend on thee. Come on, my lords, here will I host tonight. Exeunt. Imprint this ebook is the product of many hours of hard work by volunteers for Standard eBooks, and builds on the hard work of other literature lovers made possible by the public domain. This particular ebook is based on a transcription from Project Gutenberg and on digital scans from the Hathai Trust Digital Library. The source text and artwork in this ebook are believed to be in the United States public domain. That is, they are believed to be free of copyright restrictions in the United States. They may still be copyrighted in other countries, so users located outside of the United States must check their local laws before using this ebook. The creators of, and contributors to, this ebook dedicate their contributions to the worldwide public domain via the terms in the CC 01.0 Universal Public Domain Dedication. For full license information, see the uncopyright at the end of this ebook. Standard eBooks is a volunteer-driven project that produces ebook editions of public domain literature using modern typography, technology, and editorial standards, and distributes them free of cost. You can download this and other ebooks carefully produced for true book lovers at Standard Books.org. Edward Roman III by William Shakespeare. Uncopyright may you do good and not evil. May you find forgiveness for yourself and forgive others. May you share freely, never taking more than you give. Copyright pages exist to tell you that you can't do something. Unlike them, this uncopyright page exists to tell you that the writing and artwork in this ebook are believed to be in the United States public domain. That is, they are believed to be free of copyright restrictions in the United States. The United States public domain represents our collective cultural heritage, and items in it are free for anyone in the United States to do almost anything at all with, without having to get permission. Copyright laws are different all over the world, and the source text or artwork in this ebook may still be copyrighted in other countries. If you're not located in the United States, you must check your local laws before using this ebook. Standard ebooks makes no representations regarding the copyright status of the source text or artwork in this ebook in any country other than the United States. Non-authorship activities performed on items that are in the public domain, so-called sweat of the brow, work, don't create a new copyright. That means that nobody can claim a new copyright on an item that is in the public domain for, among other things, work like digitization, markup, or typography. Regardless, the contributors to this ebook released their contributions under the terms in the CC 01.0 Universal Public Domain dedication, thus dedicating to the worldwide public domain all of the work they've done on this ebook, including but not limited to metadata, the title page, imprint, colophon, this uncopyright, and any changes or enhancements to, or markup on, the original text and artwork. This dedication doesn't change the copyright status of the source text or artwork. We make this dedication in the interest of enriching our global cultural heritage, to promote free and libre culture around the world, and to give back to the unrestricted culture that has given all of us so much. Table of Contents Landmarks, Act Roman 2 Scene I the same, Gardens of the Castle. I might perceive his eye in her eye lost, his ear to drink her sweet tongue's utterance, and changing passion, like inconstant clouds that rack upon the carriage of the winds, increase and die in his disturbed cheeks. Lo, when she blushed, even then did he look pale, as if her cheeks, by some enchanted power, attracted had the cherry blood from his. Anon, with reverent fear when she grew pale, his cheeks put on their scarlet ornaments, but no more like her oriental red, than brick to coral or live things to dead. Why did he then thus counterfeit her looks? If she did blush, 'twas tender modest shame, being in the sacred presence of a king. If he did blush, 'twas red a modest shame, to veil his eyes amiss, being a king. If she looked pale, 'twas silly woman's fear, to bear herself in presence of a king. If he looked pale, it was with guilty fear, to dote amiss. Being a mighty king, then, Scottish was, farewell, I fear, 'twill prove a lingering English siege of peevish love. Here comes his highness, walking all alone. She is grown more fairer far since I came hither, her voice more silver every word than other, her wit more fluent. What a strange discourse unfolded she of David and his Scots. Even thus, quoth she, he spake, and then spoke broad, with epithets and accents of the Scot, but somewhat better than the Scot could speak. And thus, quoth she, and answered then herself, for who could speak like her? But she herself breathes from the wall an angel's note from heaven of sweet defiance to her barbarous foes. When she would talk of peace, methinks, her tongue commanded war to prison. When of war, it wakened Caesar from his Roman grave, to hear war beautified by her discourse. Wisdom is foolishness, but in her tongue, beauty a slander, but in her fair face, there is no summer, but in her cheerful looks, nor frosty winter, but in her disdain. I cannot blame the Scots that did besiege her, for she is all the treasure of our land, but call them cowards, that they ran away, having so rich and fair a cause to stay. Art thou there, Lodwick? Give me ink and paper, and bid the lords hold on their play at chess, for we will walk and meditate alone. This fellow is well read in poetry, and hath a lusty and persuasive spirit. I will acquaint him with my passion, which he shall shadow with a veil of lawn, through which the Queen of Beauty's queens shall see herself the ground of my infirmity. Then in the summer arbor sit by me, make it our council house or cabinet. Since green our thoughts, green be the conventicle where we will ease us by disburdening them. Now, Lodwick, invocate some golden muse to bring thee hither an enchanted pen that may, for sighs, set down true sighs indeed, talking of grief, to make thee ready groan. And, when thou writst of tears, encouch the word, before and after, with such sweet laments, that it may raise drops in a Tata's eye, and make a flint-hot Scythian pitiful, for so much moving hath a poet's pen. Then, if thou be a poet, move thou so, and be enriched by thy sovereign's love. For if the touch of sweet concordant strings could force attendance in the ears of hell, how much more shall the strains of poets' wit beguile, and ravish soft and human minds, to one that shames the fair and sots the wise, whose body is an abstract or a brief, contains each general virtue in the world. Better than beautiful, thou must begin. Devise for fair a fairer word than fair, and every ornament that thou wouldst praise, fly at a pitch above the soar of praise. For flattery fear thou not to be convicted. For were thy admiration 10 times more, 10 times 10,000 more the worth exceeds of that thou ought to praise, thy praise is worth. Begin, I will to contemplate the while, forget not to set down how passionate, how hot sick, and how full of languishment her beauty makes me. What beauty else could triumph over me? Ah, who but women do our love lays greet? What, think'st thou I did bid thee praise a hoss? Of what condition or estate she is, 'twere requisite that I should know, my laud. Of such estate that hers is as a throne, and my estate the footstool where she treads, then mayst thou judge what her condition is, by the proportion of her mightiness. Write on, while I peruse her in my thoughts. Her voice to music, the nightingale to music, every summer-leaping swain compares his sun-burnt lover when she speaks. And why should I speak of the nightingale? The nightingale sings of adulterate wrong, and that compad is too satirical. For sin, though sin, would not be so esteemed, but rather virtue sin, sin virtue deemed. Her hair, far softer than the silkworm's twist, like to a flattering glass, doth make more fair the yellow amber. Like a flattering glass comes in too soon. For writing of her eyes I'll say, that like a glass they catch the sun, and thence the hot reflection doth rebound against the breast and burns my heart within. Ah, what a world of descant makes my soul upon this voluntary ground of love. Come, Ludwig, haste thou turn thy ink to gold? If not, write but in letters capital my mistress' name, and it will gild thy paper. Read, Ludwig, read, fill thou the empty hollows of mine ears with the sweet hearing of thy poetry. Her praise is as my love, both infinite, which apprehends such violent extremes that they disdain an ending period. Her beauty hath no match but my affection, hers more than most, mine most, and more than more, hers more to praise than tell the sea by drops. Nay, more than drop the massy earth by sands, and, sand by sand, print them in memory. Then wherefore talk'st thou of a period, to that which craves unended admiration? Read, let us hear. That line hath two faults gross and palpable. Compass thou her to the pale queen of night, who being set in dark, seems therefore light. What is she when the sun lifts up his head, but like a fading taper, dim and dead? My love shall brave the eye of heaven at noon, and being unmasked, outshine the golden sun. I did not bid thee talk of chastity, to ransack so the treasure of her mind, for I had rather have her chased than chaste. Out with the moonline, I will none of it, and let me have her likened to the sun. Say, she hath thrice more splendor than the sun, that her perfections emulate the sun, that she breeds sweets as plenteous as the sun, that she doth thaw cold winter like the sun, that she doth cheer fresh summer like the sun, that she doth dazzle gazers like the sun. And in this application to the sun, bid her be free and general as the sun, who smiles upon the basest weed that grows as lovingly as on the fragrant rose. Let's see what follows that same moonlight line. More fair and chaste than is the queen of shades, more bold in constancy, O monstrous line, put in the next aside, and I shall woo her to cut of my head. Blot, blot, good Ludwig, let us hear the next. I thank thee then, thou hast done little ill. But what is done is passing, passing ill. No, let the captain talk of boisterous war, the prisoner, of immured dark constraint. The sick man best sets down the pangs of death, the man that starves, the sweetness of a feast, the frozen soul, the benefit of fire, and every grief his happy opposite. Love cannot sound well but in lovers' tongues. Give me the pen and paper, I will write. But soft, here comes the treasurer of my spirit. Ludwig, thou know'st not how to draw a battle. These wings, these flankers, and these squadrons argue in thee defective discipline. Thou shouldst have placked this here, this other here. Pardon my boldness, my thrice gracious lord. Let my intrusion here be called my duty, that comes to see my sovereign how he fares. Sorry I am, to see my liege so sad. What may thy subject do, to drive from thee thy gloomy consort, sullen melancholy? Ah, lady, I am blunt, and cannot straw the flowers of solace in a ground of shame. Since I came hither, countess, I am wronged. Now, God forbid that any in my house should think my sovereign wrong. Thrice gentle king, acquaint me with your cause of discontent. As near, my liege, as all my woman's power can pawn itself to buy thy remedy. If thou speakst true, then have I my redress. Engage thy power to redeem my joys, and I am joyful, countess, else I die. Then take thyself a little way aside, and tell thyself, a king doth dote on thee, say that within thy power it too doth lie to make him happy, and that thou hast sworn to give him all the joy within thy power. Do this, and tell me when I shall be happy. All this is done, my thrice dread sovereign, that power of love that I have power to give, thou haste with all devout obedience. Employ me how thou wilt in proof thereof. If on my beauty, take it if thou canst. Though little, I do prize it 10 times less, if on my virtue. Take it if thou canst, for virtue's star by giving doth augment. Be it on what it will, that I can give and thou canst take away, inherit it. Oh, were it painted, I would wipe it off and dispossess myself to give it thee. But sovereign, it is solded to my life. Take one, and both, for like an humble shadow, it haunts the sunshine of my summer's life. As easy may my intellectual soul be lent away, and yet my body live, as lend my body, palace to my soul, away from her, and yet retain my soul. My body is her bower, her cot, her abbey, and she an angel, pure, divine, unspotted. If I should leave her house, my laud, to thee, I kill my poor soul, and my poor soul me. I wish no more of thee than thou mayst give, nor beg I do not, but I rather buy, that is thy love, and for that love of thine, in rich exchange, I tender to thee mine. But that your lips were sacred, my laud, you would profane the holy name of love. That love, you offer me, you cannot give, for Caesar owes that tribute to his queen. That love you beg of me I cannot give, for sorrow owes that duty to her laud. He that doth clip or counterfeit your stamp shall die, my laud. And will your sacred self commit high treason against the King of Heaven, to stamp his image in forbidden metal, forgetting your allegiance and your oath? In violating marriage sacred law, you break a greater honor than yourself. To be a king is of a younger house than to be married. Your progenitor, sole reigning Adam on the universe, by God was honored for a married man, but not by him anointed for a king. It is a penalty to break your statutes, though not enacted with your highness hand. How much more, to infringe the holy act made by the mouth of God, sealed with his hand? I know, my sovereign, in my husband's love, who now doth loyal service in his wars, doth but so try the wife of Salisbury, whether she will hear a wanton's tale or no. Lest being therein guilty by my stay, from that, not from my liege, I turn away. Exit. Whether is her beauty by her words divine, or are her words sweet chaplains to her beauty? Like as the wind doth beautify a sail, and as a sail becomes the unseen wind, so do her words her beauty, beauty words. Oh, that I were a honey-gathering bee, to bear the comb of virtue from this flower, and not a poison-sucking, envious spider, to turn the juice I take to deadly venom. Religion is austere, and beauty gentle, too strict a guardian for so fair a ward. Oh, that she were, as is the air to me? Why, so she is, for when I would embrace her, this do I, and catch nothing but myself. I must enjoy her, for I cannot beat with reason and reproof fond love away. Here comes her father, I will work with him, to bear my colors in this field of love. How is it that my sovereign is so sad? May I with pardon know your highness grief, and that my old endeavor will remove it? It shall not cumber long your majesty. A kind and voluntary gift thou proffest, that I was forward to have begged of thee. But, O thou world, great nurse of flattery, why dost thou tip men's tongues with golden words and pies, their deeds with weight of heavy lead, that fair performance cannot follow promise? Oh, that a man might hold the heart's close book, and choke the lavish tongue when it doth utter the breath of falsehood not charactered there. Far be it from the honor of my age that I should owe bright gold and render lead. Age is a cynic, not a flatterer. I say again, that, if I knew your grief, and that by me it may be lessened, my proper harm should by your highness good. These are the vulgar tenders of false men, that never pay the duty of their words. Thou wilt not stick to swear what thou hast said, but, when thou know'st my grief's condition, this rash disgorged vomit of thy word thou wilt eat up again, and leave me helpless. By heaven, I will not, though your majesty did bid me run upon your sod and die. Say that my grief is no way medicinable, but by the loss and bruising of thine honor. If nothing but that loss may vantage you, I would account that loss my vantage too. What may be said to any perjured villain that breaks the sacred warrant of an oath, that he hath broke his faith with God and man, and from them both stands excommunicate? What office were it to suggest a man to break a lawful and religious vow? That devil's office must thou do for me, or break thy oath, or cancel all the bonds of love and duty twixt thyself and me. And therefore, Warwick, if thou art thyself, the lord and master of thy word and oath, go to thy daughter, and in my behalf command her, woo her, win her any ways, to be my mistress and my secret love. I will not stand to hear thee make reply, thy oath break hers, I'll let thy sovereign die. Exit. O doting king? O detestable office? Well may I tempt myself to wrong myself, when he hath sworn me by the name of God to break a vow made by the name of God. What if I swear by this right hand of mine to cut this right hand off? The better way were to profane the idol than confound it, but neither will I do. I'll keep mine oath unto my daughter, make a recantation of all the virtue I have preached to her. I'll say, she must forget her husband Salisbury, if she remember to embrace the king. I'll say, an oath may easily be broken, but not so easily pardoned being broken. I'll say, it is true charity to love, but not true love to be so charitable. I'll say, his greatness may bear out the shame, but not his kingdom can buy out the sin. I'll say, it is my duty to persuade, but not her honesty to give consent. See where she comes. Was never father, had against his child an embassage so bad. My lord and father, I have sought for you. My mother and the peers impart you to keep in presence of his majesty and do your best to make his highness merry. How shall I enter in this errand? I must not call her child, for where's the father that will, in such a suit, seduce his child? Then, wife of Salisbury, shall I so begin? No, he's my friend, and where is found the friend that will do friendship such endamagement? To the Countess. Neither my daughter, nor my dear friend's wife, I am not Warwick, as thou think'st I am, but an attorney from the court of hell, that thus have housed my spirit in his farm, to do a message to thee from the king. The mighty King of England dotes on thee. He that hath power to take away thy life hath power to take thine honour. Then consent to pawn thine honour, rather than thy life. Honour is often lost and got again, but life once gone hath no recovery. The sun, that withers hay, doth nourish grass. The king that would disdain thee will advance thee. The poets write that great Achilles' spear could heal the wound it made. The moral is, what mighty men misdo, they can amend. The lion doth become his bloody jaws and grace his foragement, by being mild when vassal fear lies trembling at his feet. The king will in his glory hide thy shame, and those that gaze on him to find out thee will lose their eyesight, looking in the sun. What can one drop of poison harm the sea, whose hudgy vastures can digest the ill, and make it lose his operation? The king's great name will temper thy misdeeds, and give the bitter potion of reproach a sugared sweet and most delicious taste. Besides, it is no harm to do the thing which without shame could not be left undone. Thus have I, in his majesty's behalf, apparelled sin in virtuous sentences, and dwell upon thy answer in his suit. Unnatural besiege? Woe me unhappy, to have escaped the danger of my foes, and to be 10 times worse envied by friends. Hath he no means to stain my honest blood, but to corrupt the author of my blood to be his scandalous and vile solicitor? No marvel, though the branches be then infected, when poison hath encompassed the root. No marvel, though the leprous infant die, when the stern dam envenometh the dug. Why then, give sin a passport to offend, and youth the dangerous reign of liberty? Blot out the strict forbidding of the law, and cancel every canon that prescribes a shame for shame or penance for offense. No, let me die, if his too boisterous will have it so, before I will consent to be an actor in his graceless lust. Why, now thou speak'st as I would have thee speak, and mock how I unsay my words again. An honourable grave is more esteemed than the polluted closet of a king. The great a man, the greater is the thing, be it good or bad, that he shall undertake. An unreputed mote, flying in the sun, presents a greater substance than it is. The freshest summer's day doth soonest taint the loathed carrion that it seems to kiss. Deep are the blows made with a mighty axe. That sin doth 10 times aggravate itself, that is committed in a holy place. An evil deed, done by authority, is sin and subornation. Deck an ape in tissue, and the beauty of the robe adds but the great scorn unto the beast. A spacious field of reasons could I urge between his glory, daughter, and thy shame. That poison shows worst in a golden cup. Dark night seems darker by the lightning flash. Lilies that festa smell far worse than weeds, and every glory that inclines to sin, the shame is treble by the opposite. So leave I, with my blessing in thy bosom, which then convert to a most heavy curse, when thou convertst from honour's golden name to the black faction of bed-blotting shame. Exit, I'll follow thee, and when my mind turns so, my body sink my soul in endless woe. Exit. Scene room into the same, a room in the castle. Thrice noble Audley, well encountered here, how is it with our sovereign and his peers? 'Tis full a fortnight since I saw his highness, what time he sent me forth to muster men, which I accordingly have done, and bring them hither in fair array before his majesty. What news, my lord of Derby, from the emperor? As good as we desire. The emperor hath yielded to his highness friendly aid, and makes our king lieutenant general in all his lands and large dominions, then vie for the spacious bounds of France. I have not yet found time to open them. The king is in his closet, malcontent, for what, I know not, but he gave in charge till after dinner. None should interrupt him. The Countess Salisbury, and her father Warwick, Artois, and all, look underneath the brows. I have, my liege, levied those horse and foot, according to your charge, and brought them hither. Then let those foot trudge hence upon those horse, according to our discharge, and be gone. Derby, I'll look upon the Countess mind anon. Thus from the heart's abundance speaks the tongue, Countess for emperor, and indeed, why not? She is as imperator over me, and I to her am as a kneeling vassal that observes the pleasure or displeasure of her eye. What says the more than Cleopatra's match to Caesar now, that yet, my liege, ere night she will resolve your majesty. Drum within. What drum is this that thunders forth this march to start the tender Cupid in my bosom? Poor sheepskin, how it brawls with him that beateth it! Go, break the thundering parchment bottom out, and I will teach it to conduct sweet lines unto the bosom of a heavenly nymph, for I will use it as my writing paper, and so reduce him, from a scolding drum, to be the herald and dear counsel-bearer betwixt a goddess and a mighty king. Go, bid the drummer learn to touch the lute, or hang him in the braces of his drum, for now we think it an uncivil thing to trouble heaven with such harsh resounds. Away. Exit Ludwig. The quarrel that I have requires no arms but these of mine, and these shall meet my foe in a deep march of penetrable groans. My eyes shall be my arrows, and my sighs shall serve me as the vantage of the wind to whirl away my sweetest artillery. Ah, but alas, she wins the son of me, for that is she herself. And thence it comes that poets term the wanton warrior blind, but love hath eyes as judgment to his steps, till too much loved glory dazzles them. My liege, the drum that stroked the lusty march stands with Prince Edward, your thrice valiant son. I see the boy. Oh, how his mother's face, modelled in his, corrects my strayed desire and rates my heart and chides my thievish eye, who being rich enough in seeing her, yet seeks elsewhere, and basest theft is that which cannot cloak itself on poverty. Now, boy, what news? I have assembled, my dear lord and father, the choicest buds of all our English blood for our affairs in France, and here we come, to take direction from your majesty. Still do I see in him delineate his mother's visage, those his eyes are hers, who looking wistly on me make me blush. For faults against themselves give evidence, lust is a fire, and men, like lanthorns, show light lust within themselves, even through themselves. Away, loose silks of wavering vanity? Shall the large limit of fair Brittany by me be overthrown? And shall I not master this little mansion of myself? Give me an armor of eternal steel. I go to conquer kings. And shall I then subdue myself and be my enemy's friend? It must not be. Come, boy, forward advance. Let's with our colours sweet the air of France. My liege, the countess with a smiling cheer desires access unto your majesty, advancing from the door and whispering to him. Why, there it goes. That very smile of hers hath ransomed captive France and set the king, the dauphin, and the peers at liberty. Go, leave me, Ned, and revel with thy friends. Exit, prince. Thy mother is but black, and thou, like her, dost put into my mind how foul she is. Go, fetch the countess hither in thy hand, and let her chase away these winter clouds, for she gives beauty both to heaven and earth. Exit Ludwig. The sin is more to hack and hew poor men, than to embrace in an unlawful bed the register of all rarieties since leathern Adam till this youngest hour. Go, Ludwig, put thy hand into my purse, play, spend, give, riot, waste, do what thou wilt, so thou wilt hence a while and leave me here. Exit Ludwig. Now, my soul's playfellow, art thou come to speak the more than heavenly word of yea to my objection in thy beauteous love, and that, my dearest love, can be no less than right for right and tender love for love, than wrong for wrong and endless hate for hate. But, sith I see your majesty so bent, that my unwillingness, my husband's love, your high estate, nor no respect respected can be my help, but that your mightiness will overbear and awe these dear regards. I bind my discontent to my content, and what I would not, I'll compel I will, provided that yourself remove those lets that stand between your highness love and mine. It is their lives that stand between our love that I would have chucked up, my sovereign. My thrice-loving liege, your queen, and Salisbury my wedded husband, who living have that title in our love that we cannot bestow but by their death. So is your desire. If the law can hinder you to execute the one, let it forbid you to attempt the other. I cannot think you love me as you say, unless you do make good what you have sworn. No more, thy husband and the queen shall die. Fairer thou art by far than Hero was. Beardless Leander not so strong as I, he swum an easy current for his love, but I will through a Hellespont of blood to arrive at Sestos where my hero lies. Nay, you'll do more, you'll make the river, too, with their hot bloods that keep our love asunder, of which my husband and your wife are twain. Thy beauty makes them guilty of their death, and gives in evidence that they shall die, upon which verdict I, their judge, condemn them. O perjured beauty! More corrupted judge, when to the great star-chamber o'er our heads the universal sessions calls to count this packing evil, we both shall tremble for it. Resolved to be dissolved, and therefore this, keep but thy word, great king, and I am thine. Stand where thou dost, I'll part a little from thee, and see how I will yield me to thy hands. Turning suddenly upon him, and showing 2 daggers. Here by my side doth hang my wedding knifes. Take thou the one, and with it kill thy queen, and learn by me to find her where she lies. And with this other, I'll dispatch my love, which now lies fast asleep within my heart. When they are gone, then I'll consent to love. Stir not, lascivious king, to hinder me. My resolution is more nimble far than thy prevention can be in my rescue, and if thou stir, I strike. Therefore stand still, and hear the choice that I will put thee to. Either swear to leave thy most unholy suit, and never henceforth to solicit me, or else, by heaven, kneeling this sharp-pointed knife shall stain thy earth with that which thou wouldst stain, my poor chaste blood. Swear, Edward, swear, or I will strike and die before thee here. Even by that power I swear, that gives me now the power to be ashamed of myself, I never mean to pot my lips again in any words that tends to such a suit. Arise, true English lady, whom our isle may better boast of, than e'er Roman might of her, whose ransacked treasury hath tasked the vain endeavour of so many pens. Arise, and be my fault thy honour's fame, which after ages shall enrich thee with. I am awaked from this idle dream. Warwick, my son, Derby, Otwa, and Audley, brave warriors all, where are you all this while? Warwick, I make thee warden of the North, thou, Prince of Wales and Audley, straight to sea, Scour to New Haven. Some there stay for me. Myself, Otwa, and Derby, will through Flanders to greet our friends there, and to crave their aid. This night will scarce suffice me to discover my folly's siege against a faithful lover, for ere the sun shall gild the eastern sky, we'll wake him with our martial harmony. Exeunt. Act Roman 3 Scene I Flanders. The French camp. Here, till our navy of 1,000 sail have made a breakfast to our foe by sea, let us encamp to wait their happy speed. Lorraine, what readiness is Edward in? How haste thou heard that he provided is of martial furniture for this exploit? To lay aside unnecessary soothing, and not to spend the time in circumstance, 'tis bruited for a certainty, my lord, that he's exceeding strongly fortified. His subjects flock as willingly to war as if unto a triumph they were led. England was wont to harbour malcontents, bloodthirsty and seditious Catalines, spendthrifts, and such as gape for nothing else but changing and alteration of the state. And is it possible that they are now so loyal in themselves? All but the Scot, who solemnly protests, as heretofore I have informed his grace, never to sheathe his sword, or take a truce. Ah, that's the entourage of some better hope. But, on the other side, to think what friends King Edward hath retained in Netherland, among those ever-bibbing epicures, those frothy Dutchmen, puffed with double beer, that drink and swill in every place they come, doth not a little aggravate mine ire. Besides, we hear, the emperor conjoins and stalls him in his own authority, but all the mightier that their number is, the greater glory reaps the victory. Some friends have we beside domestic power, the stern Polonian and the warlike Dane, the king of Bohemia and of Sicily, are all become confederates with us, and, as I think, are marching hither apace. Drum within. But soft, I hear the music of their drums, by which I guess that their approach is near. King John of France, as league and neighborhood requires when friends are anyway distressed, I come to aid thee with my country's fosse. And from great Moscow, fearful to the Turk, and lofty Poland, nurse of haughty men, I bring these servitors to fight for thee who willingly will venture in thy cause. Welcome, Bohemian king, and welcome, all. This your great kindness I will not forget. Besides your plentiful rewards and crowns, that from our treasury ye shall receive, there comes a hair-brained nation, decked in pride, the spoil of whom will be a treble game. And now my hope is full, my joy complete. At sea we are as puissant as the fosse of Agamemnon in the haven of Troy. By land, with Xerxes we compare of strength whose soldiers drank up rivers in their thirst. Then, Bayard-like, blind overweening Ned, to reach at our imperial diadem, is either to be swallowed of the waves, or hacked a pieces when thou comest ashore. Near to the coast I have descried, my lord, as I was busy in my watchful charge, the proud armado of King Edward's ships, which at the first, far off when I did ken, seemed as it were a grove of withered pines, but drawing near, their glorious bright aspect, their streaming ensigns wrought of coloured silk, like to a meadow full of sundry flowers, adorns the naked bosom of the earth. Majestical the order of their costs, figuring the horned circle of the moon, and on the topgallant of the admiral, and likewise all the handmaids of his train, the arms of England and of France unite, aquatted equally by heralds' art. Thus, tightly carried with a merry gale, they plough the ocean hitherward amain. Dare he already crop the flower de luce. I hope, the honey being gathered thence, he, with the spider, afterward approached, shall suck forth deadly venom from the leaves. But where's our navy? How are they prepared to wing themselves against this flight of ravens? They, having knowledge brought them by the scouts, did break from anchor straight, and, puffed with rage no otherwise than, were their sails with wind, made forth, as when the empty eagle flies to satisfy his hungry griping maw. There's for thy news. Return unto thy bark, and if thou scape the bloody stroke of war and do survive the conflict, come again and let us hear the manner of the fight. Exit, mariner. Mean space, my lords, 'tis best we be dispersed to several places, lest they chance to land. First, you, my lord, with your Bohemian troops, shall pitch your battles on the lower hand. My eldest son, the Duke of Normandy, together with the aid of Muscovites, shall climb the higher ground another way. Here in the middle coast, betwixt you both, Philip, my youngest boy, and I will lodge. So, lords, be gone, and look unto your charge, you stand for France, an empire fair and large. Exeunt Charles, Lorraine, King of Bohemia, and Fosses. Now tell me, Philip, what is thy conceit, touching the challenge that the English make? I say, my lord, claim Edward what he can, and bring he ne'er so plain a pedigree, 'tis you are in possession of the crown, and that's the surest point of all the law. But were it not yet, ere he should prevail, I'll make a conduit of my dearest blood, or chase those straggling upstarts home again. Well said, young Philip. Call for bread and wine, that we may cheer our stomachs with repast, to look our foes more sternly in the face. A table and provisions brought in, king and his son sat down to it, ordnance afar off. Now is begun the heavy day at sea. Fight, Frenchmen, fight, be like the field of bears when they defend their younglings in the caves. Steer, angry Nemesis, the happy helm, that with the sulphur battles of your rage the English fleet may be dispersed and sunk. Ordnance again. O father, how this echoing cannon shot, like sweetest harmony, digests my eats. Now, boy, thou hear'st what thundering terror 'tis, to buckle for a kingdom's sovereignty. The earth, with giddy trembling when it shakes, or when the exhalations of the air breaks in extremity of lightning flash, affrights not more than kings when they dispose to show the rancor of their high-swollen hearts. Retreat heard. Retreat is sounded, one side hath the worse, oh, if it be the French. Sweet fortune, turn, and in thy turning, change the forward winds that, with advantage of a favoring sky, our men may vanquish and the other fly. My hot misgives, say, mirror of pale death, to whom belongs the honor of this day. Relate, I pray thee, if thy breath will serve, the sad discourse of this discomfiture. I will, my lord. My gracious sovereign, France hath turned the foil, and boasting Edward triumphs with success. These iron-hearted navies, when last I was reported to your grace, both full of angry spleen, of hope and fear, hasting to meet each other in the face, at last conjoined, and by their admiral, our admiral encountered many shot. By this the other, that beheld these twain give earnest penny of a further wrack, like fiery dragons took their haughty flight, and likewise meeting, from their smoky wombs sent many grim ambassadors of death. Then 'gan the day to turn to gloomy night, and darkness did as well enclose the quick as those that were but newly reft of life. No leisure served for friends to bid farewell, and, if it had, the hideous noise was such, as each to other seemed deaf and dumb. Purple the sea, whose channel filled as fast with streaming gaw that from the maimed fell, as did her gushing moisture break into the craned cleftures of the through-shot planks. Here flew ahead, dissevered from the trunk. Their mangled arms and legs were tossed aloft, as when a whirlwind takes the summer dust, and scatters it in middle of the air. Then might ye see the reeling vessels split and tottering sink into the ruthless flood, until their lofty tops were seen no more. All shifts were tried both for defense and hurt, and now the effect of valor and of fear, of resolution and of cowardice, we lively picted, how the one for fame, the other by compulsion laid about. Much did the non-peril, that brave ship, so did the black snake of Bullen, than which a bonnier vessel never yet spread sail, but all in vain. Both sun, the wind, and tide revolted all unto our foemen's side, that we perforce were fain to give them way, and they are landed. Thus my tale is done. We have untimely lost, and they have won. Then rests there nothing, but with present speed to join our several fosses all in one, and bid them battle ere they range too far. Come, gentle Philip, let us hence depart. This soldier's words have piqued thy father's heart. Exeunt, scene room into Picardy. Fields near Cressy. Well met, my masters, how now? What's the news? And wherefore are ye laden thus with stuff? What is it quat-a-day that you remove and carry bag and baggage too? Quat-a-day? Aye, and quartering day, I fear. Have ye not heard the news that flies abroad? How the French navy is destroyed at sea, and that the English army is arrived. What then, quoth you? Why, is't not time to fly when envy and destruction is so nigh? Content thee, man, they are far enough from hence, and will be met, I warrant ye, to their cost before they break so far into the realm. Aye, so the grasshopper doth spend the time in mirthful jollity, till winter come, and then too late he would redeem his time when frozen cold hath nipped his careless head. He, that no sooner will provide a cloak than when he sees it doth begin to rain, may, peradventure, for his negligence, be throughly washed when he suspects it not. We that have charge and such a train as this must look in time to look for them and us, lest, when we would, we cannot be relieved. Belike, you then despair of all success and think your country will be subjugate. Yet rather fight, than like unnatural sons, forsake your loving parents in distress. Tush, they that have already taken arms are many fearful millions in respect of that small handful of our enemies. But 'tis a rightful quarrel must prevail. Edward is son unto our late king's sister, when John Valois is 3 degrees removed. Besides, there goes a prophecy abroad, published by one that was a friar once whose oracles have many times proved true, and now he says, the time will shortly come, when as a lion, roused in the west, shall carry hence the flowered illusive of France. These, I can tell ye, and such like surmises strike many Frenchmen cold unto the heart. Fly, countrymen and citizens of France, sweet flowering peace, the root of happy life, is quite abandoned and expulsed the land. Instead of whom, ransack constraining war sits like to ravens upon your houses' tops. Slaughter and mischief walk within your streets and, unrestrained, make havoc as they pass. The farm whereof even now myself beheld, upon this fair mountain, whence I came. For so far off as I directed mine eyes, I might perceive 5 cities all on fire, cornfields and vineyards, burning like an oven. And as the reeking vapor in the wind turned but aside, I likewise might discern the poor inhabitants, escape the flame, fall numberless upon the soldiers' pikes. 3 ways these dreadful ministers of wrath do tread the measures of their tragic march. Upon the right hand comes the conquering king, upon the left his hot, unbridled son, and in the midst our nation's glittering host, all which, though distant, yet conspire in one to leave a desolation where they come. Fly, therefore, citizens, if you be wise, seek out some habitation further off. Here as you stay, your wives will be abuzzed, your treasure shod before your weeping eyes. Shelter yourselves, for now the storm doth rise. Away, away, methinks I hear their drums. Ah, wretched France, I greatly fear thy fall, thy glory shaketh like a tottering wall. Exeunt. Scene Roman 3 the same. Where is the Frenchman, by whose cunning guide we found the shallow of this river Somme, and had direction how to pass the sea? Then, Gobbin, for the service thou hast done, we here enlodge and give thee liberty, and for a 3 recompense, beside this good, thou shalt receive 500 marks in gold. I know not how we should have met our son, whom now in hot I wish I might behold. Good news, my lord, the prince is hot at hand, and with him comes Lord Audley and the rest, whom since our landing we could never meet. Welcome, fair prince. How haste thou sped, my son, since thy arrival on the coast of France. Successfully, I thank the gracious heavens, some of their strongest cities we have won, as Harfleur, Lo, Crote, and Cantine, and others wasted, leaving at our heels a wide apparent field and beaten path for solitariness to progress in. Yet, those that would submit, we kindly pardoned, but who in scorn refuzzed our proffered peace, endured the penalty of sharp revenge. Ah, France, why shouldst thou be thus obstinate against the kind embracement of thy friends? How gently had we thought to touch thy breast and set our foot upon thy tender mould, but that in froward and disdainful pride thou, like a skittish and untamed colt, dost start aside and strike us with thy heels. But tell me, Ned, in all thy warlike cost hast thou not seen the usurping king of France? Yes, my good lord, and not 2 hours ago, with full 100,000 fighting men, upon the one side of the river's bank, I on the other. With his multitudes, I feared he would have cropped our smaller power. But happily, perceiving your approach, he hath withdrawn himself to Cressy Plains, where, as it seemeth by his good array, he means to bid us battle presently. Edward know that John, the true king of France, musing thou shouldst encroach upon his land, and in thy tyrannous proceeding, slay his faithful subjects and subvert his towns, spits in thy face, and in this manner following upbraids thee with thine arrogant intrusion. First, I condemn thee for a fugitive, a thievish pirate, and a needy mate, one that hath either no abiding place or else, inhabiting some barren soil, where neither herb nor fruitful grain is had, dost altogether live by pilfering. Next, insomuch thou hast infringed thy faith, broke league and solemn covenant made with me, I hold thee for a false pernicious wretch, and last of all, although I scorn to cope with one so much inferior to myself. Yet, in respect thy thirst is all for gold, thy labor rather to be feared than loved. To satisfy thy lust in either pot, here am I come, and with me have I brought exceeding store of treasure, pearl and coin. Leave therefore now to persecute the weak, and armed entering conflict with the armed, let it be seen, mongst other petty thefts, how thou canst win this pillage manfully. If gall or wormwood have a pleasant taste, then is thy salutation honey sweet, but as the one hath no such property, so is the other most satirical. Yet what how I regard thy worthless taunts, if thou have uttered them to foil my fame or dim the reputation of my birth. Know that thy wolvish barking cannot hurt, if slyly to insinuate with the world, and with a strumpet's artificial line to paint thy vicious and deformed cause, be well assured the counterfeit will fade, and in the end thy foul defects be seen. But if thou didst it to provoke me on, as who should say, I were but timorous, or coldly negligent did need a spur, bethink thyself how slack I was at sea, how since my landing I have won no towns, entered no further but upon the coast, and there have ever since securely slept. But if I have been otherwise employed, imagine, Valois, whether I intend to skirmish, not for pillage, but for the crown which thou dost wear, and that I vow to have, or one of us shall fall into his grave. Look not for cross invectives at our hands, or railing execrations of despite. Let creeping serpents hid in hollow banks sting with their tongues. We have remorseless swords, and they shall plead for us and our affairs. Yet thus much, briefly, by my father's leave, as all the immodest poison of thy throat is scandalous and most notorious lies, and our pretended quarrel is truly just, so end the battle when we meet today. May either of us prosper and prevail, or, luckless cursed, receive eternal shame. That needs no further question, and I know, his conscience witnesseth, it is my right. Therefore, Valois, say, wilt thou yet resign, before the sickles thrust into the corn, or that enkindled fury turn to flame? Edward, I know what right thou hast in France, and ere I basely will resign my crown, this champion field shall be a pool of blood, and all our prospect is a slaughter-house. I, that approves thee, tyrant, what thou art, no father, king, or shepherd of thy realm, but one that tears her entrails with thy hands, and, like a thirsty tiger, sucks her blood. You peers of France, why do you follow him that is so prodigal to spend your lives? Whom should they follow, aged impotent, but he that is their true-born sovereign? Upbraidest thou him, because within his face time hath engraved deep characters of age? No, these grave scholars of experience, like stiff-grown oaks, will stand immovable, when whirlwind quickly turns up younger trees. Was ever any of thy father's house king, but thyself, before this present time? Edward's great lineage, by the mother's side, 500 years hath held the sceptre up. Judge then, conspirators, by this descent, which is the true-born sovereign, this or that. Father, range your battles, prate no more. These English fain would spend the time in words that, night approaching, they escape unfought. Lords and my loving subjects, now's the time that your intended force must bide the touch. Therefore, my friends, consider this in brief. He that you fight for is your natural king. He against whom you fight, a foreigner. He that you fight for, rules in clemency and reigns you with a mild and gentle bit. He against whom you fight, if he prevail, will straight enthrone himself in tyranny, make slaves of you, and with a heavy hand curtail and curb your sweetest liberty. Then, to protect your country and your king, let but the haughty courage of your hearts answer the number of your able hands, and we shall quickly chase these fugitives. For what's this Edward but a belligod, a tender and lascivious wantonness, that th other day was almost dead for love? And what, I pray you, is his goodly God? Such as but scant them of their chines of beef and take away their downy feather beds, and presently they are as resty stiff as twere a many overridden jades. Then, Frenchmen, scorn that such should be your lords, and rather bind ye them in captive bands. Now on this plain of Cressy spread yourselves, and, Edward, when thou dost, begin the fight. Exeunt King John, Charles, Philip, Lorraine, Bohemia, and Fosses. We presently will meet thee, John of France. And, English lords, let us resolve today either to clear us of that scandalous crime or be entombed in our innocence. And Ned, because this battle is the first that ever yet thou fought'st in pitched field, as ancient custom is of martialists, to dub thee with the type of chivalry, in solemn manner we will give thee alms. Come, therefore, heralds, oddly bring forth a strong attirement for the prince my son. Edward Plantagenet, in the name of God, as with this armor I impale thy breast, so be thy noble unrelenting heart walled in with flint of matchless fortitude, that never base affections enter there. Fight and be valiant, conquer where thou comest. Now follow, lauds, and do him honour too. Receiving the helmet from the second herald. Edward Plantagenet, Prince of Wales, as I do set this helmet on thy head, wherewith the chamber of thy brain is fenkt, so may thy temples, with Bellona's hand, be still adorned with laurel victory. Fight and be valiant, conquer where thou comest. Receiving the lance from the third herald. Edward Plantagenet, Prince of Wales, receive this lance into thy manly hand. Use it in fashion of a brazen pen to draw forth bloody stratagems in France and print thy valiant deeds in honour's book. Fight and be valiant, conquer where thou comest. Receiving the shield from the fourth herald. Edward Plantagenet, Prince of Wales, hold, take this target, wear it on thy arm, and may the view thereof, like Perseus' shield, astonish and transform thy gazing foes to senseless images of meagre death. Fight and be valiant, conquer where thou comest. Now wants there naught but knighthood, which deferred we leave till thou haste won it in the field. My gracious father, and you forward peers, this honour you have done me, animates and cheers my green yet scarce appearing strength with comfortable good presaging signs, no otherwise than did old Jacob's words, when as he breathed his blessings on his sons. These hallowed gifts of yours when I profane, or use them not to glory of my God, to patronage the fatherless and poor, or for the benefit of England's peace, benumb my joints. Wax feeble both mine arms, wither my heart, that like a sapless tree I may remain the map of infamy. Then thus our steeled battles shall be ranged. The lading of the vowed, Ned, is thine, to dignify whose lusty spirit the maw, we temper it with Audley's gravity, that, courage and experience joined in one, your manage may be second unto none, for the main battles I will guide myself, and Derby in the rearward march behind. That oddly disposed and set in ray, let us to hoss, and God grant us the day. Exeunt. Scene Roman far the same. O Lorraine, say, what mean our men to fly? Our number is far greater than our foes. The garrison of Genoa's, my lord, that came from Paris, weary with their march, grudging to be so far suddenly employed, no sooner in the forefront took their place, but straight retiring, so dismayed the rest as likewise they betook themselves to flight, in which, for haste to make a safe escape, more in the clustering throng are pressed to death than by the enemy, 1,000-fold. O hapless fortune, let us yet essay if we can counsel some of them to stay. Exeunt. Scene V5 the same. Laud Audley, whiles our son is in the chase, withdraw your powers unto this little hill, and here a season let us breathe ourselves. Just dooming heaven, whose secret providence to our gross judgment is inscrutable, how are we bound to praise thy wondrous works, that haste this day, given way unto the right, and made the wicked stumble at themselves? Rescue, Otwa? What, is he prisoner? All by violence fell beside his hoss? Neither, my lord, but narrowly beset with turning Frenchmen whom he did pursue, as 'tis impossible that he should scape, except your highness presently descend. Tut, let him fight, we gave him alms today, and he is labouring for a knighthood man. The prince, my lord, the prince? Oh, succour him, he's close encompassed with a world of odds. Then will he win a world of honour too if he by valour can redeem him thence. If not, what remedy? We have more sons than one, to comfort our declining age. Renowned Edward, give me leave, I pray, to lead my soldiers where I may relieve your grace's son, in danger to be slain. The snares of French, like emmets on a bank, muster about him, whilst he, lion-like, entangled in the net of their assaults, frantically rends and bites the woven toil, but all in vain, he cannot free himself. Oddly content, I will not have a man, on pain of death, sent forth to succour him. This is the day ordained by destiny to season his courage with those grievous thoughts, that, if he breathe out Nesta's years on earth, will make him savour still of this exploit. Yet, good my lord, 'tis too much wilfulness, to let his blood be spilt that may be salved. Exclaim no more, for none of you can tell whether a borrowed aid will serve or no. Perhaps he is already slain or ta'en, and dare a falcon when she's in her flight, and ever after she'll be haggard-like. Let Edward be delivered by our hands, and still in danger he'll expect the like. But if himself redeem from thence, he will have vanquished, cheerful, death and fear, and ever after dread their foss no more than if they were but babes or captive slaves. But soft, methinks I hear retreat sounded. The dismal charge of trumpets loud retreat. All are not slain, I hope, that went with him. Some will return with tidings, good or bad. First having done my duty, as beseemed, kneels, and kisses his father's hand. Lauds, I regreet you all with hearty thanks. And now, behold, after my winter's toil, my painful voyage on the boisterous sea of war's devouring gulfs and steely rocks, I bring my fraught unto the wished pot, my summer's hope, my travel's sweet reward. And here with humble duty I present this sacrifice, this first fruit of my sod, cropped and cut down even at the gate of death, the king of Boheme, father, whom I slew, whose thousands had entrenched me round about, and lay as thick upon my battered crest as on an anvil, with their ponderous glaives. Yet marble courage still did underprop, and when my weary arms with often blows, like the continual labouring woodman's axe that is enjoined to fell a load of oaks, began to falter, straight I would remember my gifts you gave me in my zealous vow, and then new courage made me fresh again, that, in despite, I carved my passage forth and put the multitude to speedy flight. Lo, thus hath Edward's hand filled your request and done, I hope, the duty of a knight. Aye, well thou hast deserved a knighthood, Ned, and therefore with thy sword, yet reeking warm, receiving it from the soldier who bore it and laying it on the kneeling prince. With blood of those that fought to be thy bane, arise, Prince Edward, trusty knight at arms, this day thou hast confounded me with joy, and proved thyself fit heir unto a king. Here is a note, my gracious lord, of those that in this conflict of our foes were slain. 11 princes of esteem, Foscar barons, 120 knights, and 30,000 common soldiers, and of our men, 1,000. Our God be praised? Now, John of France, I hope, thou know'st King Edward for no wantonness, no lovesick cockney, nor his soldiers jades. But which way is the fearful king escaped? Ned, thou and Audley shall pursue them still. Myself and Derby will to Calais straight, and there be begirt that haven town with siege. Now lies it on an upshot, therefore strike, and wistly follow whiles the game's on foot. What picture's this? Pointing to the colours. A pelican, my lord, wounding her bosom with her crooked beak that so her nest of young ones may be fed with drops of blood that issue from her heart. The motto? Sic et vos. And so should you, flourish, exunt in triumph. Act IV 6 Scene I Bretagne. Camp of the English. My lord of Salisbury, since by your aid mine enemy Sir Charles of Blois is slain, and I again am quietly possessed in Britain's dukedom, know that I resolve, for this kind furtherance of your king and you, to swear allegiance to his majesty. In sign whereof receive this coronet, bear it unto him, and withal mine oath, never to be but Edward's faithful friend. I take it, Mountford. Thus, I hope, ere long the whole dominions of the realm of France will be surrendered to his conquering hand. Exit Mountford and train. Now, if I knew but safely how to pass, I would at Calais gladly meet his grace, whither I am by letters certified that he intends to have his host removed. It shall be so. This policy will serve. Ho, who's within? Bring Villiers to me. Villiers, thou know'st thou art my prisoner, and that I might for ransom, if I would, require of thee 100,000 francs, or else retain and keep thee captive still. But so it is, that for a smaller charge thou mayst be quit, and if thou wilt thyself. And this it is, procure me but a passport of Charles the Duke of Normandy, that I without restraint may have recourse to Calais through all the countries where he hath to do, which thou mayst easily obtain, I think, by reason I have often heard thee say, he and thyself were students once together, and then thou shalt be set at liberty. How sayst thou? Wilt thou undertake to do it? Why, so thou shalt take horse and post from hence. Only, before thou goest, swear by thy faith that, if thou canst not compass my desire, thou wilt return my prisoner back again, and that shall be sufficient warrant for me. To that condition I agree, my lord, and will unfeignedly perform the same. Farewell, Villiers. Exit, Villiers. This once I mean to try a Frenchman's faith. Exit, Scene Roman 2 Picardy. The English camp before Calais, since they refuse our proffered league, my lord, and will not ope their gates and let us in, we will entrench ourselves on every side, that neither victuals nor supply of men may come to succour this accursed town. Famine shall combat where our swords are stopped. The promised aid that made them stand aloof is now retired and gone another way. It will repent them of their stubborn will. You wretched patents of despair and woe, what are you? Living men, or gliding ghosts, crept from your graves to walk upon the earth? No ghosts, my lord, but men that breathe a life far worse than is the quiet sleep of death. We are distressed poor inhabitants that long have been diseased, sick, and lame. And now, because we are not fit to serve, the captain of the town hath thrust us forth that so expense of victuals may be salved. A charitable deed, no doubt, and worthy praise. But how do you imagine then to speed? We are your enemies. In such a case we can no less but put you to the sod, since, when we proffered truce, it was refused. And if your grace no otherwise vouchsafe, as welcome death is unto us as life. Poor silly men, much wronged and more distressed. Go, Derby, go, and see they be relieved. Command that victuals be appointed them, and give to every one 5 crowns apiece. Exeunt Derby and Frenchmen. The lion scorns to touch the yielding prey, and Edward's sword must flesh itself in such as wilful stubbornness hath made perverse. The Queen, my lord, comes here to your grace. And from her Highness and the Lord Vicegerent, I bring this happy tidings of success. David of Scotland, lately up in arms, thinking belike he soonest should prevail, your Highness being absent from the realm, is, by the fruitful service of your peers and painful travel of the Queen herself, that, big with child, was every day in arms, vanquished, subdued and taken prisoner. Thanks, Percy, for thy news with all my heart. What was he, took him prisoner in the field? A squire, my lord, John Copland is his name, who since, entreated by her majesty, denies to make surrender of his prize to any but unto your grace alone, whereat the Queen is grievously displeased. Well, then we'll have a pursuivant dispatched to summon Copland hither out of hand, and with him he shall bring his prisoner king. The Queen's, my lord, herself by this at sea, and purposeth, as soon as wind will serve, to land at Calais, and to visit you. She shall be welcome, and to wait her coming I'll pitch my tent near to the sandy shaw. The burgesses of Calais, mighty king, have, by a council, willingly decreed to yield the town and castle to your hands, upon condition it will please your grace to grant them benefit of life and goods. They will so? Then belike they may command, dispose, elect, and govern as they list. No, sirrah, tell them, since they did refuse our princely clemency at first proclaimed, they shall not have it now, although they would. I will accept of naught but fire and sod, except, within these 2 days, 6 of them, that are the wealthiest merchants in the town, come naked, all but for their linen shirts, with each a halter hanged about his neck, and prostrate yield themselves, upon their knees, to be afflicted, hanged, or what I please. And so you may inform their masterships, exeunt Edward and Percy. Why, this it is to trust a broken staff. Had we not been persuaded, John our king would with his army have relieved the town, we had not stood upon defiance so. But now 'tis past that no man can recall, and better some do go to rack than all. Exit. Scene Roman 3.2. Fields near Poitiers. The French camp, tent of the Duke of Normandy. I wonder, Villiers, thou shouldst importune me for one that is our deadly enemy. Not for his sake, my gracious lord, so much am I become an earnest advocate as that thereby my ransom will be quit. Thy ransom, man? Why needst thou talk of that? Art thou not free? And are not all occasions that happen for advantage of our foes to be accepted of and stood upon? No, good my lord, except the same be just. For profit must with honour be commixed, or else our actions are but scandalous. But letting pass these intricate objections, wilt please your highness to subscribe? Oh no, Villiers, I will not nor I cannot do it. Salisbury shall not have his will so much to claim a passport how it please himself. Why, then I know the extremity, my lord. I must return to prison whence I came. Return? I hope thou wilt not. What bird that hath escaped the fowler's gin will not beware how she's ensnared again? Or what is he so senseless and secure, that, having hardly passed a dangerous gulf, will put himself in peril there again? Ah, but it is mine oath, my gracious lord, which I in conscience may not violate, or else a kingdom should not draw me hence. Thine oath? Why, that doth bind thee to abide, haste thou not swan obedience to thy prince, in all things that uprightly he commands, but either to persuade or threaten me not to perform the covenant of my word is lawless, and I need not to obey. Why, is it lawful for a man to kill, and not to break a promise with his foe? To kill, my lord, when war is once proclaimed, so that our quarrel be for wrongs received, no doubt, is lawfully permitted us, but in an oath we must be well advised how we do swear, and when we once have sworn, not to infringe it, though we die therefore. Therefore, my lord, as willing I return as if I were to fly to paradise. Going, stay, my Villiers, thine honourable mind deserves to be eternally admired. Thy suit shall be no longer thus deferred. Give me the paper, I'll subscribe to it, signs, and gives it back. And, wheretofore I loved thee as Villiers, hereafter I'll embrace thee as myself. Stay, and be still in favour with thy lord. I humbly thank you, Grace. I must dispatch and send this passport first unto the Earl, and then I will attend your highness' pleasure. Do so, Villiers. And Charles, when he hath need, be such his soldiers, howsoever he speed. Exit Villiers. Come, Charles, and arm thee. Edward is entrapped, the Prince of Wales is fallen into our hands, and we have compassed him. He cannot scape. What else, my son? He's scarce 8,000 strong, and we are 70,000 at the least. I have a prophecy, my gracious lord, wherein is written what success is like to happen us in this outrageous war. It was delivered me at Cressy's field by one that is an aged hermit there. Reads, when feathered fowl shall make thine army tremble, and flintstones rise, and break the battle ray, then think on him that doth not now dissemble, for that shall be the hapless dreadful day. Yet in the end thy foot thou shalt advance as far in England as thy foe in France. By this it seems we shall be fortunate. For as it is impossible that stones should ever rise and break the battle ray, or airy fowl make men in arms to quake, so is it like we shall not be subdued. Ah, say this might be true, yet in the end, since he doth promise, we shall drive him hence and forage their country as they have done ours. By this revenge that loss will seem the less. But all are frivolous fancies, toys, and dreams. Once we are sure we have ensnared the sun, catch we the father after how we can. Exeunt. Scene room and far the same. The English camp. Oddly, the arms of death embrace us round, and comfort have we none, save that to die we pay sour earnest for sweet a life. At Cressy Field out clouds of warlike smoke chucked up those French mouths and dissevered them. But now their multitudes of millions hide, masking as twere the beauteous burning sun, leaving no hope to us but sullen dark and eyeless terror of all-ending night. This sudden, mighty and expedient head that they have made, fair prince, is wonderful. Before us in the valley lies the king, vantagged with all that heaven and earth can yield, his party stronger battled than our whole. His son, the braving Duke of Normandy, hath trimmed the mountain on our right hand up in shining plate, that now the aspiring hill shows like a silver quarry or an ob. Aloft the which, the banners, bannerets, and near-replenished pendants cuff the air, and beat the winds, that for their gaudiness struggles to kiss them. On our left hand lies Philip, the younger issue of the king, coating the other hill in such array that all his gilded upright pikes do seem straight trees of gold. The pendant streamers 7 leaves, and their device of antique heraldry, quatted in colours seeming sundry fruits, makes it the orchard of the Hesperides. Behind us too the hill doth bear his height, for like a half-moon, opening but one way, it rounds us in. There at our backs are lodged the fatal crossbows, and the battle there is governed by the rough Chatillon. Then thus it stands, the valley for our flight the king binds in. The hills on either hand are proudly royalized by his sons, and on the hill behind stands certain death, in pay and service with Chatillon. Death's name is much more mighty than his deeds, thy parcelling this power hath made it more. As many sands as these my hands can hold, ah, but my handful of so many sands, then all the world, and call it but a power, easily torn up and quickly thrown away. But if I stand to count them sand by sand, the number would confound my memory and make 1,000 millions of a task which, briefly, is no more, indeed, than one. These quarters, squadrons, and these regiments before, behind us, and on either hand, are but a power. When we name a man, his hand, his foot, his head, hath several strengths, and being all but oneself instant strength, why, all this many, oddly, is but one, and we can call it all but one man's strength. He that hath far to go tells it by miles, if he should tell the steps, it kills his heart. The drops are infinite that make a flood, and yet, thou know'st, we call it but a rain. There is but one France, one king of France, that France hath no more kings, and that same king hath but the puissant legion of one king, and we have one. Then apprehend no odds, for 1 to 1 is fair equality. The king of France, my sovereign lord and master, greets by me his foe the Prince of Wales. If thou call forth 100 men of name, of lords, knights, squires, and English gentlemen, and with thyself and those kneel at his feet, he straight will fold his bloody colours up and ransom, shall redeem lives forfeited. If not, this day shall drink more English blood than e'er was buried in our British earth. What is the answer to his proffered mercy? This heaven that covers France contains the mercy that draws from me submissive orisons, that such base breath should vanish from my lips, to urge the plea of mercy to a man, the Lord forbid. Return, and tell the king, my tongue is made of steel, and it shall beg my mercy on his coward burgonet. Tell him, my colours are as red as his, my men as bold, our English arms as strong, return him my defiance in his face. The Duke of Normandy, my lord and master, pitying thy youth is so ingirt with peril, by me hath sent a nimble-jointed jennet, as swift as ever yet thou didst bestride, and therewithal he counsels thee to fly. Else, death himself hath sworn that thou shalt die. Back with the beast unto the beast that sent him. Tell him I cannot sit a coward's hoss. Bid him today bestride the jade himself, for I will stain my hoss quite awe with blood and double-gild my spurs, but I will catch him. So tell the copping boy, and get thee gone. Exit Herald. Edward of Wales, Philip, the second son to the most mighty Christian king of France, seeing thy body's living date expede, all full of charity and Christian love, commends this book, full fraught with holy 8 prayers to thy fair hand, and for thy hour of life, entreats thee that thou meditate therein, and arm thy soul for her long journey towards. Thus have I done his bidding, and return. Herald of Philip, greet thy lord for me. All good that he can send I can receive, but think'st thou not the unadvised boy hath wronged himself in thus far tendering me. Haply, he cannot pray without the book. I think him no divine extemporal. Then render back this commonplace of prayer, to do himself good in adversity. Besides, he knows not my sin's quality, and therefore knows no prayers for my avail. Ere night his prayer may be to pray to God, to put it in my heart to hear his prayer. So tell the courtly wanton, and be gone. How confident their strength and number makes them. Now, oddly, sound those silver wings of thine, and let those milk-white messengers of time show thy time's learning in this dangerous time. Thyself art bruised and bit with many broils, and stratagems far past with iron pens are texted in thine honorable face. Thou art a married man in this distress, but danger woos me as a blushing maid. Teach me an answer to this perilous time. To die is all as common as to live, the one in choice, the other holds in chase, for from the instant we begin to live we do pursue and hunt the time to die. First bud we, then we blow, and oft a seed, then, presently, we fall, and as a shade follows the body, so we follow death. If then we hunt for death, why do we fear it? If we fear it, why do we follow it? If we do fear, how can we shun it? If we do fear, with fear we do but aid the thing we fear to seize on us the sooner. If we fear not, then no resolved proffer can overthrow the limit of our fate, for, whether ripe or rotten, drop we shall, as we do draw the lottery of our doom. Ah, good old man, 1,000,000 amas these words of thine have buckled on my back. Ah, what an idiot haste thou made of life, to seek the thing it fears, and how distract the imperial victory of murdering death. Since all the lives his conquering arrows strike seek him, and he not them, to shame his glory. I will not give a penny for a life, nor half a halfpenny to shun grim death, since for to live is but to seek to die, and dying but beginning of new life. Let come the hour when he that rules it will. To live or die, I hold indifferent, exeunt, scene v the same, the French camp. A sudden darkness hath defact the sky, the winds are crept into their caves for fear, the leaves move not, the world is hushed and still, the birds cease singing, and the wandering brooks murmur no wonted greeting to their shaws. Silence attends some wonder and expecteth that heaven should pronounce some prophecy. Where or from whom proceeds this silence, Charles? Our men with open mouths and staring eyes look on each other, as they did attend each other's words, and yet no creature speaks. A tongue-tied fear hath made a midnight hour, and speeches sleep through all the waking regions. But now the pompous sun, in all his pride, looked through his golden coach upon the world, and on a sudden hath he hid himself, that now the under earth is as a grave, dark, deadly, silent, and uncomfortable. A clamor of ravens heard. Hawk, what a deadly outery do I hear? Awake thy craven powers, and tell on the substance of that very fear indeed, which is so ghastly printed in thy face. What is the matter? A flight of ugly ravens do croak and hover o'er our soldiers' heads, and keep in triangles and conned squares right as our forces are embattled. With their approach there came this sudden fog which now hath hid the airy floor of heaven, and made at noon a night unnatural upon the quaking and dismayed world. In brief, our soldiers have let fall their arms and stand like metamorphosed images, bloodless and pale, one gazing on another. I call to mind the prophecy, but I must give no entrance to a fear. Return, and hotten up these yielding souls. Tell them, the ravens, seeing them in arms, so many fare against a famished few. Come but to dine upon their handiwork, and prey upon the carrion that they kill. For, when we see a hoss laid down to die, although he be nigh not dead, the ravenous birds sit watching the departure of his life. Even so these ravens, for the carcasses of those poor English that are mocked to die, hover about, and if they cry to us, 'tis but for meat that we must kill for them. Away, and comfort up my soldiers, and sound the trumpets, and at once dispatch this little business of a silly fraud. Exit Philip. Behold, my liege, this knight and fought Emo, of whom the better part are slain and fled, with all endeavour sought to break our ranks and make their way to the encompassed prince. Dispose of him as please your majesty. Go, and the next bow, soldier, that thou seest, disgrace it with his body presently, for I do hold a tree in France too good to be the gallows of an English thief. My lord of Normandy, I have your pass and warrant for my safety through this land. I, freely to the gallows to be hanged, without denial or impediment, away with him. I hope your highness will not so disgrace me and dash the virtue of my Selah Toms. He hath my never-broken name to show, charactered with this princely hand of mine, and rather let me leave to be a prince than break the stable verdict of a prince. I do beseech you, let him pass in quiet. Thou and thy word lie both in my command. What canst thou promise that I cannot break? Which of these twain is greater infamy, to disobey thy father or thyself? Thy word, nor no man's, may exceed his power, nor that same man doth never break his word that keeps it to the utmost of his power. The breach of faith dwells in the soul's consent, which if thyself without consent do break, thou art not charged with the breach of faith. Go, hang him, for thy license lies in me, and my constraint stands the excuse for thee. What, am I not a soldier in my word? Then, arms adieu, and let them fight that list. Shall I not give my girdle from my waist, but with a guardian I shall be controlled to say, I may not give my things away. Upon my soul, had Edward Prince of Wales engagged his word, writ down his noble hand, for all your knights to pass his father's land, the royal king, to grace his warlike son, would not alone safe conduct give to them, but with all bounty feasted them and theirs. Dwell'st thou on precedence? Then be it so. Say, Englishman, of what degree thou art, an earl in England though a prisoner here, and those that know me call me Salisbury. To Calice Salisbury? Then to Calice pack, and bid the king prepare a noble grave to put his princely son, Black Edward, in. And as thou travell'st westward from this place, some 2 leagues hence there is a lofty hill, whose top seems topless, for the embracing sky doth hide his high head in her azure bosom, upon whose tall top when thy foot attains, look back upon the humble vale beneath, humble of late, but now made proud with arms, and thence behold the wretched Prince of Wales, hooped with a bond of iron round about. After which sight to Calice spur amain, and say, the prince was smothered and not slain, and tell the king, this is not all his ill, for I will greet him ere he thinks I will. Away, begone, the smoke but of our shot will choke our foes, though bullets hit them not. Exeunt. Scene vi the same, a pot of the field of battle. No, dear Otwa, but chocked with dust and smoke and stepped aside for breath and fresher air. Breath then, and tot again. The amazed French are quite distract with gazing on the crows, and were our quivers full of shafts again, your grace should see a glorious day of this. Oh, for more arrows? Laud, that's our want. Courage, Otwa, a fig for feathered shafts when feathered fowls do bandy on our side. What need we fight and sweat, and keep a coil when railing crows outscold our adversaries? Up, Otwa! The ground itself is armed with 10 fire-containing flint. Command our bows to hurl away their pretty-colored yew, and tot with stones. Away, Otwa, away. My soul doth prophesy we win the day. Exeunt. Our multitudes are in themselves confounded, dismayed, and distraught. Swift-starting fear hath buzzed a cold dismay through all our army, and every petty disadvantage prompts the fear-possessed abject soul to fly. Myself, whose spirit is steel to their dull lead. What with recalling of the prophecy, and that our native stones from English arms rebel against us, find myself attainted with strong surprise of weak and yielding fear. Fly, father, fly. The French do kill the French, some that would stand let drive at some that fly. Our drums strike nothing but discouragement, our trumpets sound dishonor and retire. The spirit of fear, that feareth not but death, cowardly works confusion on itself. Pluck out your eyes and see not this day's shame. An arm hath beat an army, one poor David hath with a stone foiled 20 stout Goliaths, some 20 naked starvelings with small flints hath driven back a puissant host of men, arrayed and fanked in all accoutrements. Maudieu, they quoited us and kill us up. No less than 40,000 wicked elders have 40 lean slaves this day stoned to death. Oh, that I were some other countryman! This day hath set derision on the French, and all the world will blurt and scorn at us. Make up once more with me. The 20th part of those that live are men enough to quail the feeble handful on the adverse part. Then charge again. If heaven be not opposed, we cannot lose the day. Even as a man may do, that dines at such a bloody feast as this. No matter, if it be, the count is cast, and in the worst, ends but a mortal man. Good friends, convey me to the princely Edward, that in the crimson bravery of my blood, I may become him with saluting him. I'll smile and tell him that this open scar doth end the harvest of his Audley's war. Exeunt. Scene Roman 7 the same. The English camp. Now, John in France, and lately John of France, thy bloody ensigns are my captive colours, and you, high-vaunting Charles of Normandy, that once today sent me a host to fly, are now the subjects of my clemency. Fie, lauds! Is't not a shame that English boys, whose early days are yet not worth a beard, should in the bosom of your kingdom thus, 1 against 20, beat you up together? See, Otwa doth bring with him along the late good counsel giver to my soul. Welcome, Otwa, and welcome, Philip too, who now of you or I have need to pray. Now is the proverb verified in you, too bright a morning breeds a luring day. But say, what grim discouragement comes here? Alas, what 1,000 armed men of France have writ that note of death in Audley's face? Speak, thou that woost death with thy careless smile, and look'st so merrily upon thy grave, as if thou were enamoured on thine end. What hungry sod hath so bereaved thy face, and lopped a true friend from my loving soul? O Prince, thy sweet bemoaning speech to me is as a mournful knell to one dead sick. Dear Audley, if my tongue ring out thy end, my alms shall be thy grave. What may I do to win thy life, or to revenge thy death? If thou wilt drink the blood of captive kings, or that it were restorative, command a health of king's blood, and I'll drink to thee. If honour may dispense for thee with death, the never-dying honour of this day share wholly, Audley, to thyself and live. Victorious prince, that thou art so, behold a Caesar's fame in king's captivity. If I could hold dim death but at a bay, till I did see my liege thy royal father, my soul should yield this castle of my flesh, this mangled tribute, with all willingness to darkness, consummation, dust and worms. Cheerily, bold man, thy soul is all too proud to yield her city for one little breach, should be divorced from her earthly spouse by the soft temper of a Frenchman's sod? Lo, to repair thy life, I give to thee 3,000 marks a year in English land. I take thy gift to pay the debts I owe. These two poor squires redeemed me from the French with lusty and dear hazard of their lives. What thou hast given me, I give to them, and as thou lovest me, Prince, lay thy consent to this bequeath in my last testament. Renowned Audley, live, and have from me this gift twice doubled to these squires and thee, but live or die, what thou hast given away, to these and theirs shall lasting freedom stay. Come, gentlemen, I will see my friend bestowed within an easy litter. Then will march proudly toward Calais with triumphant pace unto my royal father, and there bring the tribute of my wars, fair France's king. Exit. Act V. Scene Picardy. The English camp before Calais. No more, Queen Philip, pacify yourself. Copland, except he can excuse his fault, shall find displeasure written in our looks. And now unto this proud resisting town, soldiers, assault, I will no longer stay, to be deluded by their false delays, put all to sod and make the spoil your own. Contemptuous villains, call ye now for truce? Mine ears are stopped against your bootless cries, sound drums, alarum draw, threatening sods. Ah, noble prince, take pity on this town, and hear us, mighty king. We claim the promise that your highness made. The 2 days' respite is not yet expired, and we are come with willingness to bear what torturing death or punishment you please, so that the trembling multitude be salved. My promise? Well, I do confess as much, but I do require the chiefest citizens and men of most account that should submit. You, peradventure, are but servile grooms, or some felonious rubbers on the sea, whom, apprehended, law would execute, albeit severity lay dead in us. No, no, ye cannot overreach us thus. The sun, dread laud, that in the western fall beholds us now low brought through misery, did in the orient purple of the morn salute our coming forth, when we were known. Or may our portion be with damned fiends. If it be so, then let our covenant stand. We take possession of the town in peace, but, for yourselves, look you for no remorse. But as imperial justice hath decreed, your bodies shall be dragged about these walls and off to feel the stroke of quartering steel. This is your doom. Go, soldiers, see it done. Ah, be more mild unto these yielding men. It is a glorious thing to stablish peace, and kings approach the nearest unto God, by giving life and safety unto men. As thou intendest to be king of France, so let her people live to call thee king. For what the sod cuts down, or fire hath spoiled, is held in reputation none of ours. Although experience teach us this is true, that peaceful quietness brings most delight when most of all abuses are controlled. Yet, insomuch it shall be known that we as well can master our affections as conquer other by the dint of sod, Philip, prevail. We yield to thy request. These men shall live to boast of clemency. And tyranny, strike terror to thyself. Go, get you hence, return unto the town, and if this kindness hath deserved your love, learn then to reverence Edward as your king. Exeunt citizens. Now, might we hear of our affairs abroad, we would, till gloomy winter were all spent, dispose our men in garrison a while. But who comes here? Is this the proud presumptuous squire o' the north that would not yield his prisoner to my queen? I am, my liege, a northern squire, indeed, but neither proud nor insolent, I trust. What moved thee then to be so obstinate to contradict our royal queen's desire? No wilful disobedience, mighty lord, but my desert and public law of arms. I took the king myself in single fight, and like a soldier, would be loath to lose the least preeminence that I had won. And Copland straight upon your highness' charge is come to France, and with a lowly mind doth veil the bonnet of his victory. Receive, dread laud, the custom of my fraught, the wealthy tribute of my laboring hands, which should long since have been surrendered up, had but your gracious self been there in place. But Copeland, thou didst scorn the king's command, neglecting our commission in his name. His name I reverence, but his person maw. His name shall keep me in allegiance still, but to his person I will bend my knee. I pray thee, Philip, let displeasure pass. This man doth please me, and I like his words. For what is he that will attempt great deeds and lose the glory that ensues the same? All rivers have recourse unto the sea, and Copeland's faith, relation to his king. Kneel therefore down, now rise, King Edward's knight, and to maintain thy state, I freely give 500 marks a year to thee and thine. This, mighty king, the country we have won. And John de Mountford, regent of that place, presents your highness with this coronet, protesting true allegiance to your grace. We thank thee for thy service, valiant earl, challenge our favor, for we owe it thee. But now, my lord, as this is joyful news, so must my voice be tragical again, and I must sing of doleful accidents. What, have our men the overthrow at Poitiers? Or is our son beset with too much odds? He was, my lord, and as my worthless self, with 40 other serviceable knights, under safe conduct of the Dauphin's seal, did travel that way. Finding him distressed, a troop of lances met us on the way, suppressed, and brought us prisoners to the king, who, proud of this and eager of revenge, commanded straight to cut off all our heads. And surely we had died, but that the duke, more full of honour than his angry sire, procured our quick deliverance from thence. But ere we went, salute your king, quoth he, bid him provide a funeral for his son, today our sword shall cut his thread of life. And sooner than he thinks, we'll be with him, to quittance those displeasures he hath done. This said, we passed, not daring to reply, our hearts were dead, our looks defuzzed and wan. Wondering, at last we climbed unto a hill, from whence, although our grief were much before, yet now to see the occasion with our eyes did thrice so much increase our heaviness. For there, my lord, oh, there we did descry down in a valley how both armies lay. The French had cast their trenches like a ring, and every barricado's open front was thick embossed with brazen ordnance. Here stood a battail of 10,000 horse, there twice as many pikes in quadrant wise, here crossbows and deadly wounding darts, and in the midst, like to a slender point within the compass of the horizon, as twere a rising bubble in the sea, a hazel wand amidst a wood of pines, or as a bear fast chained unto a stake, stood famous Edward, still expecting when those dogs of France would fasten on his flesh. Anon, the death-procuring knell begins, off go the cannons, that with trembling noise, did shake the very mountain where they stood. Then sound the trumpets' clangor in the air, the battles join. And when we could no more discern the difference twixt the friend and foe, so intricate the dark confusion was, away we turned our watery eyes, with sighs as black as powder fuming into smoke. And thus, I fear, unhappy have I told the most untimely tale of Edward's fall. Ah me, is this my welcome into France? Is this the comfort that I looked to have when I should meet with my beloved son? Sweet Ned, I would thy mother in the sea had been prevented of this mortal grief. Content thee, Philip, 'tis not tears will serve to call him back if he be taken hence. Comfort thyself, as I do, gentle queen, with hope of sharp, unheard of, dire revenge. He bids me to provide his funeral, and so I will. But all the peers in France shall mourners be, and weep out bloody tears until their empty veins be dry and sere. The pillars of his hearse shall be his bones, the mould that covers him, the city's ashes, his knell, the groaning cries of dying men, and in the stead of tapers on his tomb, 150 towers shall burning blaze, while we bewail our valiant son's decease. Rejoice, my lord, ascend the imperial throne, the mighty and redoubted Prince of Wales, great servitor to bloody Mars in arms, the Frenchman's terror and his country's fame, triumphant rideth like a Roman peer, and, lowly at his stirrup, comes afoot King John of France together with his son in captive bonds, whose diadem he brings to crown thee with, and to proclaim thee king. Away with mourning, Philip, wipe thine eyes. Sound, trumpets, welcome in Plantagenet. As things long lost when they are found again, so doth my son rejoice his father's heart, for whom, even now, my soul was much perplexed, embracing the prince. Be this a token to express my joy, kisses him. For inward passion will not let me speak. My gracious father, here receive the gift, presenting him with King John's crown. This wreath of conquest and reward of war, got with as mickle peril of our lives as e'er was thing of price before this day, install your highness in your proper right. And herewithal, I render to your hands these prisoners, chief occasion of our strife. So, John of France, I see you keep your word. You promised to be sooner with ourself than we did think for, and 'tis so indeed. But had you done it first as now you do, How many civil towns had stood untouched that now are turned to ragged heaps of stones? How many people's lives mightst thou have salved that are untimely sunk into their graves? Edward, recount not things irrevocable. Tell me what ransom thou requirest to have. Thy ransom, John, hereafter shall be known. But first to England thou must cross the seas to see what entertainment it affords. Howe'er it falls, it cannot be so bad as ours hath been since we arrived in France. Accursed man! Of this I was foretold, but did misconstrue what the prophet told. Now, Father, this petition Edward makes to thee, kneels whose grace hath been his strongest shield, that, as thy pleasure chose me for the man to be the instrument to show thy power, so thou wilt grant, that many princes more, bred and brought up within that little isle, may still be famous for like victories. And, for my part, the bloody scars I bear, and weary nights that I have watched in field, the dangerous conflicts I have often had, the fearful menaces were proffered me, the heat and cold and what else might displease, I wish were now redoubled 20-fold, so that hereafter ages, when they read the painful traffic of my tender youth, might thereby be inflamed with such resolve as not the territories of France alone, but likewise Spain, Turkey, and what countries else that justly would provoke fair England's ire, might at their presence tremble and retire. Here, English lords, we do proclaim a rest and interceasing of our painful arms. Sheath up your swords, refresh your weary limbs, peruse your spoils, and after we have breathed a day or two within this haven town, God willing, then for England will be shipped, where, in a happy hour, I trust, we shall arrive, 3 kings, 2 princes, and a queen, flourish, exunt omnes. Colophon Edward Roman III was published anonymously in 1596, and partly written by William Shakespeare. This ebook was produced for Standard eBooks by Emma Sweeney, and is based on a transcription produced in 1999 by the PG, Shakespeare team, and distributed proofreaders for Project Gutenberg, and on digital scans from the Hathai Trust Digital Library. The cover page is adapted from The King of Thule, a painting completed in 1896 by Pierre-Jean van der Oudera. The cover and title pages feature the League Spartan and Sots Mill Gaudi typefaces created in 2014 and 2009 by the League of Movable Type. This edition was released on July 8, 2025, 6:53 p.m., and is based on revision 099B1A2. The first edition of this ebook was released on August 12, 2021, 10:43 p.m. You can check for updates to this ebook, view its revision history, or download it for different e-reading systems at standardbooksorg/ebooks/William Shakespeare/Edward Roman III. The volunteer-driven Standard eBooks project relies on readers like you to submit typos, corrections, and other improvements. Anyone can contribute at Standard.org. Dramatis Personae Edward III, King of England Edward, Prince of Wales, his son Earl of Warwick, Earl of Derby, Earl of Salisbury, Lord Audley, Lord Percy Ludwig, Edward's confidant Sir William Mountague, Sir John Copeland, 2 esquires, and a herald, English Robert, styling himself Earl of Artois, Earl of Mountford or Montfort, Goban de Grey John, King of France Charles, his son Philip, his son Duke of Lorraine Villiers, a French Lord King of Bohemia, aide to King John a Polish captain, aide to King John's 6 citizens of Calais a captain, and a poor inhabitant of the same another captain, a mariner 3 heralds, and 4 other Frenchmen David, King of Scotland Earl Douglas 2 messengers, Scotch Philip, Edward's Queen Countess of Salisbury, a French woman lords, and divers other attendants, heralds, officers, soldiers, etc. seen, dispersed in England, Flanders, and France. In notes editors add y aunt to correct the lines meter. SE, editor right editors add it to correct the lines meter. SE, editor right editors add a to correct the lines meter. SE, editor right editors add so to correct the lines meter. SE, editor right some modern editions combine scenes 4 and 5. See the New Cambridge Shakespeare edition. SE, editor right the number of scenes in Act 4 can differ from edition to edition. The Shakespeare Apocryphas edition, edited by C. F. Tucker Brook, contains as many as 9 scenes. SE, editor right editors add streamers to correct the lines meter. SE, editor right editors add wholly to correct the lines meter. SE, editor right editors add he be to correct the lines meter. SE, editor right editors add with to correct the lines meter. SE, editor right editors add another on to correct the lines meter. SE, editor right. Edward Roman III,